So, Victoria, thank you very much for chatting with us.
It's my pleasure.
I read The Fragile Strength of Power. I know you spent a lot of time on that book, not only writing it, but thinking about it.
Yes. Yeah, I don't enter into anything lightly. And so when I finished the first trilogy, I didn't want to go back to the world unless I had a really strong plan. And for me, what a plan is that I need to have a set of accomplishments that I want to achieve. And so, yes, it took about 3-4 years to think of how I wanted to handle Threads of Power versus Shades of Magic, because Shades of Magic is the first series, Threads of Power is the second one. But I didn't want it to be all new cast, and I didn't want it to be simply a continuation of books 1, 2, and 3. I needed it to feel necessary. I needed it to feel important. And so for that, I stepped forward 7 years so that we could see the way that the people and the world had changed in the aftermath of Conjuring of Light. And I wanted to introduce a new arc, a new era, and a new challenge to the story, a new big bad, a new villain, all of these things. And so it took several years for all of that to come together, and then it took about 2 years to write what would become Threads of Power.
It makes all the sense in the world because the book starts with a phrase about growing up. People think growing up is important.
Yeah.
Yet,
Yeah.
and that's how it starts. So you're talking about you had to grow yourself and grow the story inside yourself.
Yeah.
And start a book with this phrase.
I mean, I think a lot about growth, especially as an author, as a creative, because every story that you write, you want it to be a form of growth. And growth isn't linear. Growth isn't bad to good. It isn't low to high. It's like organic. It's an expansion in every direction. And so I think a lot about growth as it relates to storytelling. This has grown. If you think about it from a technical perspective, there are like 4 perspectives and only this much story in A Darker Shade of Magic. And now it has grown with each and every book because the world grows and the characters grow and our investment in the characters grows as well.
But you also made the past grow in this story because past is very important here. This is something you didn't do with the other books. But now you're growing the story into the past.
I think one of the reasons I wanted to start 7 years ahead was so that we could have this sense of a fresh start, of a new door opening. But it meant there was 7 years of story, 7 years of past that was very important to the narrative. And so I think a lot about the difference between chronological storytelling and narrative storytelling. Chronological storytelling is the order in which the events happen. Narrative storytelling is the order in which I tell them to you.
And also... We're going to have a cut there.
Okay.
You also gave the space to tell us a story about the past of each of the characters.
Yeah.
How was it for Kostika when she was a kid, or for Nadia?
Yeah.
How was it to swim into their childhood?
I love it because it's work that I would do anyway as the writer. I think that who we are is such a product of who we've been and of what's happened to us. And kind of one of the theses of the series is that like all of the things that we do, how we trust, how we fear, how we fight, are a product of things that have happened to us before. So things which happen in our past inform who we are now. Things which happen in Lila Bard's past have shaped Delilah Bard. Things that happen in Tess and Kosika's past, this is why they are the people that they are and why they're the people that they're becoming. And so I think that the past is such an integral part of storytelling because it's what makes us care.
It also shapes the society. That's why you wanted to tell us how it was, the tree of the different Londons in the past, right?
Yes, I mean it's creating like this series. Both series start 200 years after this cataclysmic event. We never are in the past all the way to the cataclysmic event, but we've been inching backward towards it.
And now 7 years later, the other worlds or the other Londons are considered to be a problem.
Yes.
In many different ways, but it's always a problem.
Yeah.
Do you think that's how we are perceiving different states nowadays?
I think there's always insider-outsider culture. And we will always, when there are problems, we will always look to outsiders. We will always look to blame people outside of our system, our family, our society, our world. And so I think it's natural that red London looks to blame white London looks to blame red, white looks to blame black London, and gray London. Like, we are looking for problems elsewhere because the alternative is that we have to look at the problems within. We have to see responsibility within our society as well. And the fact is that, like, even though these worlds are cut off from each other for now, they weren't cut off for each other. Yeah. They weren't cut off in the past. And so it's really important to understand also the shifting boundary of place. That what was inside is now outside. That what was part of our world is now away from our world. And so we act as if these boundaries have always been there, but they haven't. Boundaries are something that we make.
And they're moving all the time.
Yeah. Or getting stronger or weaker or, you know, in danger.
I like that. You're saying, I'm going to quote.
Okay.
You, taking the throne is cheap. Repairing the world, it's quite expensive.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
I mean, I don't know. Can you repeat the quote?
I have it in Spanish.
Oh, okay, okay.
Spanish, but taking the throne.
Oh, yes.
Is cheap and repairing
yes,
the world.
Yes. This is a thing in White London, especially traditionally in White London, the throne has been taken by force. Whoever has the most power takes the throne and holds it until somebody with more power comes along and takes it away from them. It's a very simplified system. Mm-hmm. And what Kosika is discovering is that there's a difference between taking the throne and using the throne, earning the throne, like wielding the throne to make the world better. That is a ruler's job. That is a ruler's imperative. That is something, there are a lot of kings and queens in these books, and that is something that they all have to face, which is that they are existing from a position of power. What do they do with that power? Do they use it to make themselves stronger, or do they use it to make their society stronger?
I wanted to talk to you about the motivations, the triggers for each one of these girls.
Yes.
Because they are learning all the time how to challenge the rules, not bending them,
yeah.
Challenge the rules. And their position is quite different. They come from different backgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
How did you picture these three so different girls?
Yeah.
And connect them?
I mean, I think it's really interesting that even though these are very adult books, the two new leads are teenage girls. And I think it's because that these teenage girls have power in different forms. Tess has the ability to bend the rules of magic in her world, but she's a runaway. Kosika is queen. And she has one of the most powerful magics that the world can have. And yet both of them, because they're teenage girls, are seen as objects, not subjects to other people. Other people, adults, the people around them, want to wield their power as if it's their own. They're in danger of being used by everyone around them. And these two girls are learning how to resist the forces that would disempower them and take their magic and use it for their own behalf. And these two girls are learning essentially how to say no. These two girls are learning how to stand up for themselves. Yes, exactly. And that's a thing that I think, whether you're talking about contemporary fiction set in here and now with no magic, or these stories, that is something that all teenage girls specifically have to fight for, which is the right to their own autonomy, the right to their own fate, their own decisions, their own power.
There's something I really like, is that you're making them very, very human. Mm-hmm. There's not always like, oh, I'm a good person all the time, and I have a character that is mean all the time. No. They have human motivations. They are taking decisions upon their families and the people they love.
I mean, I don't believe that. The thing is, I want to write characters that feel like people. And the difference between characters and people is that characters only exist in the book and people exist everywhere. And I want you to believe that they're people, not characters. And the thing about people is that we don't exist in black and white. We don't exist in good and evil. We don't exist at the far edges of those poles. We exist somewhere in the middle. We are not good or bad. We are messy. We are sometimes selfish and sometimes selfless. We have people that we love and would sacrifice ourselves for, and we have people that we don't. And I think that historically what we see in fiction, especially with young women, is this thing that when you give them power, you must also make them self-sacrificing. You must also make them willing to give away everything for the greater good. Why?
Were you thinking about Queen Elizabeth?
No, I mean, I think I was thinking about every girl that I have ever read in fiction or known in reality, which is who is expected to make themselves smaller so that other people can be large.
So we have seen it again and again and again.
Yeah, it's constant. It is a continuous recurring theme. And I think looking at those themes is what makes storytelling timeless.
I like that. Here's another quote. Houses as lives can be revealed.
Yes.
Are we going to reveal the story if we have more and more characters who are learning how to manage power?
I mean, that's what you have to continue reading to see. There's definitely several forms of rebuilding that are happening in the books, but there's also a lot of destruction. And the argument by some of the destroyers is that things have to be torn down to be rebuilt, right? There is always a period of chaos before a new sense of order. The thing, though, is that there's people in the book who don't want the chaos, who want to maintain the order that is there, and there's people that want to destroy the order that is there in an effort for a new order, in an effort for a new era, a new age. And so I think we're going to see a lot of destruction as well as a lot of attempts at creating. And I think that healing is part of that, mending is part of that, but so is damage.
We'll have to read that.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.